everyone, and we're live with another edition of Notes on the Newsfeed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Fabulites. This is Angela. Notes on the News, or Not News, is my segment where I share with you my headlines that I have put from the newsfeed to my personal newsfeed, and I share with you my thoughts and ideas and perspectives on those headlines, the articles, the subject matter at large, if I have any thoughts, ideas, or perspectives that I want to share. But it's not news. We just kicking it and chit-chatting. It's my notes on the news. So like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm working on 1,000 subscribers for this channel. So if you are one of my charter subscribers, I appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you could have already been a charter subscriber by the time I finish this sentence just by pushing the red subscribe button that's somewhere around here. So go on and do that. Welcome on the chat. Thank you. Thank you. Let us proceed. We're just getting started with the notes on the news feed. News feed. Proceed news. Okay. California officials report hostages taken in an active shooter situation at veterans' home. So I didn't read the article. I just saw it on my news thing when I looked at it. Is there like an uptick in these things going on? Or we just getting an uptick in reporting of these things? Or maybe just because I'm paying more attention to the news, I'm more aware of it. But, yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, we have so many people have guns. I guess it's, more likely to be active shooter situations because, I don't know, shoot. But anyway, just finally got a notification. Hallelujah. I don't know what to do about it. Because, I find sometimes that I get unsubscribed. I already talked about this, so blah, blah, blah. Netflix turns kids into binge scouts, rewards TV time with binges. So if you watch like all episodes of Black Mirror, then you get a badge. If you do so-and-so, you get a badge. It reminds me of an episode of Black Mirror where it seemed like, does anybody watch Black Mirror? Where it seemed like the people were just like sitting up there watching, doing stuff, like watching stuff and, and then they get points and then they could use their points for things like, I don't know what they could use it for. I guess better than regular food because it seemed like everybody lived in a little cubicle with big screens all around. But they were like on the hunt for badges and validation from the system for watching the system, for being programmed by the system. So I guess, we're seeing, science fiction theoretically is just like the natural progression of vibrations that are already in the air. Just taking something to its natural conclusion. Lots of conditioning goes on. Yeah, but I need to do more deep conditioning on my hair. No, I don't. As soon as it gets warm, I'm going to shave my head. That's totally unrelated. Coca-Cola wants to dominate a $7 billion industry with a new type of beverage that's taking the world. That's taking over the world. You know what that beverage is? Coconut water. You drink coconut water? One thing if I was on the marketing team of Coca-Cola is that they're Coca-Cola, coconut cola. They got the right name for the business. When I was in Jamaica, I think the only time I went to Jamaica, but I think Jamaica was the first time I had like fresh coconut water. And people are like, oh, it's so good, it's so wonderful, it's so great. And they cut it open and they put a straw in it. And I don't know if I got a bad coconut or what. But I was like, this is really not tasty to me. It's this. I have a weird thing with coconut because sometimes when rice is cooked in coconut water or coconut milk, I get a little sickly. I can work with coconut somehow, but I kind of have to watch it. So maybe that was it. But ever since then, I've just never been a coconut water person because I'm like, it did not taste good. Oh, as a matter of fact, I was like, well, maybe mine is spoiled. And then my husband drank it. He like, this good. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So it was kind of like, okay, that's not for me. But it's very popular. And I just had my parents get some coconut water and made them try it and drink it. And they liked it. Acquired taste. I have not gotten used to it yet. Yeah, I'm not good with acquired taste. Because if it don't taste good, then I'm like not likely to continue to eat it, So, I don't know. But they tried it. It seemed like for the first time, they seemed to like it. Like, it's not bad. It's good. Interview goes downhill as pretty babysitter confronts DC radio host for not hiring her. Now, men may not know about this or may not be conscious of it, but a lot of times women are like, I'm not hiring a pretty nanny, because if we hire a pretty nanny and she comes in, then she's going to take my man, or, like kind of that sentiment. I don't want my husband to have an attractive, assistant or any, I don't want any attractive women in the world of a man that I'm dealing with, because if he sees an attractive woman, out goes his ability to, be responsible for his own actions. So I have to take responsibility away by getting rid of all of the good looking women in the whole world. So this woman, I guess, was saying on the radio that she didn't hire a pretty babysitter. And then I guess her co-host got the person who she didn't hire on the phone. And the person who she didn't hire, the pretty person, was kind of upset. And it went downhill when she confronted her. That's what it says in the headlines. I kind of skimmed the story. But I just think it's kind of like an interesting concept. Like, how can you, I guess it's two things. Like, one, you can't control, to me, I don't know how you can control what another person does, or what they choose to do. And then two, it's kind of like, well, pretty is sort of like subjective. And, some people say like, that, in the dark, all of the parts are pretty or unpretty, or it's neutralized. So, some people look at somebody like advantage of being cockeyed. I can look at both. Some people look at like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I guess that the woman that he had a relationship with, and they feel that she was ugly. But who's to say? I just feel like that's so how and I think it's kind of similar sometimes to how people try to treat women. Like, well, we'll just, totally cover them up, and then no one will look at them, and we won't have any problems with women dealing with anyone other than their husband. And y'all know how people are. People are people. You can't. People gonna do what people are gonna do. Our ability to make good decisions is not, I guess there is something to do with accessibility. Like, if you don't have any options, I guess you can't. But I feel like everybody always have options. Like, I feel like if you want to do some mess and some foolishness, you can always find a way to do mess and foolishness. You just have to work on developing yourself so you can be a better person and do the righter thing, or be a person of your word more and more often. That's what I think. That's just me. Okay. So anyway, and I thought it was interesting also that her colleagues put her on Front Street. I guess people think some stuff is funny, but how Atlanta police rescued 14-year-old black girls from savage sex trafficking ring. So I didn't read the story, but I had read a long time ago that Atlanta was like a key place for sex trafficking, and that a lot of the flight attendants who work in the Atlanta airport had gotten extra training to be able to spot sex trafficking. So that, like, if you saw like a group of 5 girls with one man, or because I guess that people fly into the Atlanta airport and have sexually assault people or buy prostitutes, or it's like, I guess it's like a hotbed for prostitution and sex trafficking and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I guess it's good for people to be rescued. It makes me kind of curious about what type of support. That was a big problem a few years ago here in Ohio. I'm glad they busted that up, as far as I know. I feel like it's good for people to be rescued, but like support is so important, and like that processing, like how you deal with stuff, how stuff is dealt with after the fact, I think is really, really important. Too. Like, I feel like rescued, like that's good to be out of the situation, but is the situation out of you? Like, how do you process, that experience? How do you integrate that into, the rest of your life? How do you, make peace with that aspect of your experience and that aspect of who you are? And I think often as a society, we're really challenged with, supporting people in doing that. So anyway, Canada places black woman on $10 bill before America can do right by Harriet Tubman. When was the Harriet Tubman bill supposed to go out? There was a whole bunch of conversation about the fact that Harriet Tubman, some people theorize, would be offended and turn over in her grave to be on an American $20 bill when people was trying to buy her people and sell her people for an American $20 bill or whatever. So this is the woman on the Canadian bill. And her name is Viola Desmond, and they say she stood up for civil rights in Nova Scotia, Canada. And can I just say that Nova Scotia is one of my favorite words, Nova Scotia. Maybe from that movie Daughters of the Dusk, one of the characters said Nova Scotia in a certain way, and so anyway, that's what's going on. White privilege posters in Canada schools anger many parents. So I don't know if they kind of feel like they don't have an issue with racism or they don't have an issue in Canada like they have here. But I think the poster said, white privilege, do you have it or check it or something like that. I don't really know. But I think the parents who were upset were the white parents, but I could be wrong. But I feel like my experience of Canada, we need a teacup so we can sip the tears. My experience of Canada and, people who have lived there and have, frame of reference is that, it's like how we talked about this before, up south and down south, like, it's racism up here. And for us to be like, oh, it's so awful down south. I think it is different. But, the whole world got their share of problems with this foolishness. Ava DuVernay discusses why she rejected the chance to direct Black Panther. She said she was coming off of a lot of projects that had some male-ish energy. She felt that a male should do that thing, and she wanted to do something with some feminine energy. That's my take on it. UK Movie Pass copycat. This Movie Pass thing, now I done passed up a whole nother story on Movie Pass. I'm not even going to report it. But there's a copycat in UK. And the UK theaters are they out here advertising, putting up websites talking about coming soon, UK Movie Pass. But they ain't talk to us. So how they going to have a movie pass and they ain't talk to the movie theaters? That's how the theaters are feeling. So I don't know. Maybe their theory is that they'll get a big demand. And then when they go to negotiate with the theaters, they'll be like, well, we have 17 million subscribers. So what you going to do? You're going to have to negotiate with us. So there. Kellis, my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard and their life is better than yawn. Their life bought a farm to take her food empire to the next level. Now, what's the deal with Kellis's food empire? I knew she was doing something with, wholesome food, or I got that impression, but I don't know what the empire is. But we're all a fan of people building empires, especially if it's, food, because, we need Black folks to have food empires. That's good. And I'm assuming it's, it's something healthy and conscious. So yay, you might want to learn more. In the Dark, Kathleen York and Derek Webster cast in the CW drama pilot. So I don't know what it is, hadn't heard anything about it, but I think the Derek Webster was the dark one. Kathleen York looked like she was the white one, or the white looking one, and then the black man looked like he was blackish, blackity black, I don't remember, brown. Depressing photos that show what tourists, vandals, and climate change have done to America's national parks. So I guess it's not looking good there. I've been to Glacier National Park. That might be the only national park I've been to. Have I been to any other? I think that's the only national park I've been to. So I haven't, I wanted to go to the Grand Canyon. And then there are other national parks. Is that the only? That's terrible. I need to go to some national parks. But anyway, they're not looking good. And we know that Zero is trying to sell them off and mine them. And, yeah. Amazon and Costco are selling emergency kits that can feed a family for a year, and it reveals a disturbing new normal in America. So this idea, I think that what they're talking about is this idea that you got to have an escape plan. You got to have a plan for when, what is it called? The end of the world. There's a word for it. Tiago? No, it's something like It's not snafu, but it's something like situation normal, all messed up and the end of the world has come. It was an episode of, what's that show I haven't watched this season that I like to watch with the zombies? Dang. Living Dead. What is it called? I can't even think of what it's called. But no, not the Apocalypse. It's The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead. So it's like, this is becoming like, the new normal. How celebrities are honoring the Notorious B.I.G. on the 21st anniversary of his death. So I don't know. I don't know if I know any of Notorious B.I.G.'s songs or music. I don't know that I know them. Are you doing anything to honor Notorious B.I.G.? Are you one? Do you do, like, if your parents have made their transition or grandparents, do you do something to honor them? Are there other people that you admire or aspects of people that you admire? Do you have like some yearly way of honoring important people in your life? Or, for Biggie, was he Biggie Smalls? I think Notorious B.I.G. was Biggie Smalls, right? I don't know. So anyway, I don't know how the celebrities and other people are honoring him, but it just made me think of how we honor, people. And also, I'm not like big on holidays, but like, I guess if I was, like in this community, they do a Marcus Garvey celebration every year. And I think it's on his birthday, not on his death day. But it's really educational and informative. And like, I think it's like a really beautiful way to continue a legacy. And like, my mother's husband's family, she had like 10 children. They do like on the anniversary of her death, they all go to the grave and then they, get a meal together. And I'm assuming that they talk about their mama. I've never been to it, but they remember her, and keep her name and spirit and, consciousness of her alive. So I think that's beautiful. The amount of money The Rock gets paid for a single movie is unheard of in today's movie business. They're like the prices that he's making, like $20 million a movie, is like what Will Smith used to make back in the day. They said Will Smith and some woman artist. I kind of just let the anniversary of my mother's death pass. It is way too painful and fresh. I know that sounds bad. I don't know if it sounds bad. Yeah, I don't know if it sounds bad to me. I mean, I just figure it is what it is. Everybody do the best that they can. But, it's not, I don't, like, my mother is still alive, so it's easy for me to be like, well, just think about the things you loved about your mama and celebrate them. Like, if my mama made her transition, I might, like, ball up in a corner and not speak for 12 years. I don't know, so I can't even, begin to, have any perspective, on that, really. So, just prayers and peace and, all praises be to mama. She did good. Your mama did. Yay. She was my hero. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. One thing about moving back to Detroit, because I've lived all over the place. And, as an adult, this is really my first time living long-term in Detroit, is that I really have an appreciation and a consciousness of, spending time with my parents, I think in a way that I did not have before, and an understanding and a consciousness of, I just feel like I'm really attentive and paying attention in a way that I don't think that I was before. Just like, oh, shut up, you don't know anything. And now I'm like, what did you say? What do you think? What are you doing? So, yeah. It's a blessing. I'm really grateful. I'm really thankful. The amount, okay, so we talked about The Rock and how much money he's making. Very good. Dr. Tyra Selden, remembering the stolen girls of Americus, Georgia. I wasn't familiar with this situation. There were some young women, like during the time when, black folks were like, the civil rights movement, when black folks were like very actively trying to integrate stuff. These young girls, it was like, I think they were like between 12 and 15, and it was like around 15 of them. They decided to integrate a movie theater. And so they went to the movie theater and they got arrested. They didn't tell, for the most part, their parents where they were going. I don't know if any of them had told their parents where they were going, because their parents, they were sneaking off and doing it. Like, because a lot of times back in the day, it wasn't like the parents were like, yeah, go out there and protest. They'd be like, you better sit your behind down. So the parents didn't know where they were. They got arrested. They were locked up in some warehouse place. Nobody notified the parents. Somebody somehow found out where the children were and took pictures of their living conditions. They had one toilet that they were sharing with over 15 girls. They were laying on the floor of a warehouse, like concrete floors. They didn't have anything to like bathe with or anything like that. And then when the cops or whatever, I guess the cops is when Popo let them go, they charged the parents, I think $1 a day or $2 a day boarding for the girls. The nerve. So anyway, that's the Stolen Girls of Americus, Georgia. If you didn't know, now you know, or you can go research and tell me what I messed up. Sisters accused of beating 3-year-old brother to death over cupcake plead not guilty. Now, I think that the sisters were sisters to one another and not sisters to the 3-year-old. And I think the little boy got a cupcake. Like, like when I was a kid, I would sneak and get things. I mean, as an adult, I guess I don't sneak and get things because I'm grown. And who gonna check me, boo? But I'm just saying, as a child, somebody might be like, no, you can't have a cupcake. And I might get a cookie or a cupcake. We ain't have a lot of cookies or cupcakes around. But and the baby, got a hold of the cupcake. And then the mama, I think it was a mother and her sister. And I had heard this story before. And I don't know if it's true or not. But it's very disturbing, just the idea. Some people are like really, really crazy because, it's like one of them like punched the boy and then hit him in the head. Then another one hit the child with a bat and, they beat the boy to death. So that's kind of like, an intense reaction. Like, obviously it's not to taking a cupcake because the punishment or the punishment does not fit the crime. But anyway, they pled not guilty. So, when I heard about this situation, when it was first reported, some people don't need to be around children at all. I mean, it's a wonder to me when I think about, because a lot, that expression, hurt people. And a lot of times, like when I think of like the brutality and anger that sometimes people express, and I think of the brutality and anger that was expressed, toward us, and is still expressed toward us, it's a wonder to me that there's not more of it. Like, for example, this is not exactly related, but sort of kind of, when I lived in New York, like, like you flag a cab and they would like cut through 12 lanes of traffic to get to you and there wouldn't be an accident. And, like when you drive in New York, or when I drove in New York, hello, true to self Williams. When I drove in New York, it's kind of like you just have to like get in and people are aggressive. And it's like always amazing to me that, like that I have been safe when I've driven in New York and haven't had an accident. And, and even just like in a regular place, like the fact that they just put lines on the street and then people more or less stay between those lines, like that the system works, is sort of amazing to me. Because, I just think it just seems like I just would think there would be accidents in New York all day, every day. And just in any old regular place too, because it's just like lines on the street, And so it's like amazing to me, like with Black folks and like with people in general, like especially in this country, the amount of violence and brutality and anger and, craziness that, we're kind of exposed to and have been exposed to over generations. And, just the culture, it's kind of amazing to me that there isn't way more violence, I think that, a lot of our violence gets internalized, like, in the way that we eat and then with alcohol and, with other things. I think there is a lot of violence that, we do to ourselves. But, I'm surprised, that you don't hear about people beating children to death every other day. But it's still very, disturbing. So rest in peace to, the little boy. It's sort of hard to understand, how that, it's kind of hard to understand how that's like in like part of like why did that happen to that child, and like it sounds like an awful way to make your transition, like being beat to death by your parent. Hey family, Miss Reed, by being beat to death by your mother and your sister, your mother's sister. Like an auntie or an uncle is really like a mother or father, like it's your parent's brother or sister. That's like the same thing as a parent. So like what an off, like just to imagine like, the people who, in general, those systems, those people are here to protect us, but to have that system break down in that way for that little boy. So just, lots of peace to him and his family and his community, and like to all of us, and just, that real, true, deep peace, that allows us to kind of like work through some of the rage and some of the violence, and transmute some of the violence that we get just by being a part of this society into something, beautiful and powerful. A lot of our violence is due to our proximity to savage people and taking on their traits. I definitely think so. It doesn't seem like we're violent in the same way that it seems like Europeans are violent in like a unique and special way. Not to say that other people aren't violent, but they seem to have like a whole, different type of violence and brutality. I always thought, like Frances Cress Wilson, but like I always felt like my theory was that, when we saw the albinos, which, somehow white people have come from us. So when we saw, the white child, and, in some societies, even now, albinos are pushed out. And so it's sort of like, here's a warmth in a society and a family and a community. Oh, thank you, girl. Every day is just like a mystery every moment. It ain't no plan. Hey, Queen Bianca Brooks. But thank you. So there's like a warmth in a family and a community, and we like, oh, you white, get out. And then they got pushed over into the cold area, and who want to be in the cold area, and you freezing, you don't know if you're going to live, your people done thrown you out and rejected you, and you get mad and upset, and if you just look at like a child, like how they like it's sort of like their expression of like anger and like I think it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know where it comes from, but that's been my theory, that it's because, and maybe that's like wrong to internalize it, but I feel like it's because we threw them out in the snow and the cold, and, they didn't die. They multiplied and came back mad, upset. But yeah, and that's why, part of like us being part of this, I think is about that transmutation of that violence, of that anger, and the integration of, when we've, how do we take responsibility? How do we, as the mothers and fathers of culture, how do we, as the mothers and fathers of society, how do we raise our children who have issues when we have issues? Like how do we reconcile this and move forward as like a healthy and whole society? Is that possible? I mean, but that's why I think part of our assignment is, metaphysically, I don't know. Catalonia, Spain. Judge refuses to release Jordi Sanchez for investiture. So we were talking about Catalonia a while ago. It was like in the news maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, because that was a part of Spain that was semi-independent. They tried to go full independent, and then like now the person who was the leader is in Belgium, and now the person who's been elected to lead Catalonia is still part of being in jail for having tried to take Catalonia independent. And so the judge won't let the person out. They've been elected to be the leader, but they in jail, and the judge like, you ain't getting out of jail. So I don't know what's going on in Catalonia, but I kind of have my eye on it because I'm trying to understand this whole concept of like independence and freedom, and how it operates. How is a new country born? How is a country absorbed into another country? How does all of that work? Manager kicks young black girls out of theater, calls them animals, cop arrests woman who comes to their defense. So a woman's like, she had bought her ticket, she coming into the theater, she see the children being kicked out. Get out, you animals. And she's like, what's going on? What happened? And she's trying to film, and the cops are like, you stop filming. And they tell her to get out. And she's like, I paid for my ticket, you can't put me out. And, so it's like a whole, a whole thing. So the cop arrested the woman who came to the defense of the girls. And, I don't know what's going on, why. And I don't even know, it's coming off of Atlanta Black Star, but that doesn't mean it's coming out of Atlanta. Big Cat gets CAT scan, like CAT scan, and they showed like this lion in, the machine where you go in. I know, what a surprise. The machine where you like lay still and then it like takes so I think that the cat, the big cat, like the lion had like why can't she film? Why do they always take the cameras and stuff when people are trying to film? Because they don't want, I don't know. I really don't know why they don't want a record, because it seemed like you had a record of them filming. Like I remember Rodney King, and it was like, oh my gosh, and nothing happened. I mean, other than, I guess we got to see it. But right around the time Rodney King had happened, I was in New Orleans I think I was in New Orleans. It wasn't Freaknik. It was something, all the kids at the black colleges used to go to different stuff. And my best friend went to a HBCU. So I'd go all over the country to party. And I can't remember what it was, but we were in New Orleans because I was kind of, the whole Southern culture, that type of Southern culture was kind of new to me. And, it was some party and the cops broke it up, or the fire department broke it up. And then, we kids, we outside. Well, where are we going next? Where are we going to hang out? And the cops are like, beat it. Go on. And we like, we going. And, we black college students, and then the cops started hitting people. And it was like, hearing it and seeing it. And it was kind of like, oh my gosh. It was like, that was a little bit before Rodney King, but it was like seeing that video and then having had that experience. It's kind of like the smells, the sounds, it's just like, it's, but even the video doesn't really capture it. But even when you see it on video, how crazy and brutal it looks, it still doesn't seem like, I don't think that white people are suddenly going to see something and be like, oh my gosh, the system is going to be like, oh my gosh, we've made a mistake. We've been unjust to black folks and we got to do better. Like, I don't care how many videos we take. I think we got to accept that. I'm trying to accept it. Like, and I'm not saying don't take the video. I don't know, but yeah, that's why they didn't want her take. I don't know why didn't they want her taking the videos? The video don't make no difference. I don't know. So the big cat, the lion was going through the CAT scanner, camera that always just conveniently happened to be off their cameras, but she was filming. They didn't want her filming. The joke that caused the Ricky Smiley morning show to be kicked off the air for a day. So I think it was something like to the effect where he was saying that he went to the bathroom and somebody was in there in like blue shoes or something, and he kept coming in there and they were still in there. So I think he was calling them boo-boo shoes. Like the person was trying to make a bowel movement and he didn't want to be in there. So he just waited till he went home to use the bathroom because he didn't want to be in there. And then somehow, I guess the word went around the office and everybody was in on the joke and was looking at the person who actually worked there, who really truly had on blue shoes. Like when he made the joke, he was like, yeah, the girl with the peach head wrap. He didn't even say, the person with the green head wrap when nobody had a green head wrap. He made it obvious who the person was. So the person was embarrassed and humiliated and, talked to human resources. And so they ended up taking the show off the air for a day. That seemed kind of mean and petty to me. So, yeah. Michael Smith says he's following Jamel Hill and leaving ESPN show. So Jamel is over at It Was Mean and Petty. Yeah. And if you watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta and him dealing with it's just, I guess some people are just like mean, like in their like spirits, I guess. But anyway. So Jamel Hill went over to something called The Undefeated. And I don't know. And Michael Smith, I think they came over together and I think they had a relationship. together, but he said that he was not happy with the way that Jemele Hill was treated. And she was someone who ended up getting into one of the many battles that Zero has had on Twitter with different, mostly black folks and women. But she was one of the people who had, gotten into, some back and forth with Zero. And then, she got suspended for 2 weeks. And, so now she's not on that particular forum, but she's still with that same corporation, I believe. But her partner, and when they tried to get rid of her, and when they tried to replace her the very first time, which was really impressive to me, or the time that we heard about it, they tried to, hey, Frank G, they tried to put another black person on, like in her place, and they were like, no, you can't just slide another black person up in here for Jemele. We're not, I'm not doing it. So it was like they stood up for each other. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, and it seems relatively progressive from the outside looking in, the little bit that I've heard. Mauritius President Gurib Fakim to resign over financial scandal. I don't know anything about Mauritius, but anyway, that's what's going on over there. They say in the news. I don't know if it's true or not. How much homes cost right now in the Hamptons, one of America's most elite summer vacation destinations? Again, it makes me think of Idlewild and people who do vacation and, we're black folks vacation. And when you're a black kid and you're vacationing in places like the Hamptons, I don't know, just what are you exposed to? Are our kids going to be targets? Black parents fear new Florida law arming teachers. Yes, our children are already targets. So, yes, the answer is yes. Our kids are going to be targets. They're going to continue to be targets as long as we're a part of this system. And we're, there's a war being waged against us. And our children are, being targeted just as much as we are, or maybe more. So, yes. Friends in Law, Devere Rogers and John Gimberling to star in the NBC comedy pilot. I think that one of those people was black or brown, or two of them, I don't know. But anyway, TV stuff. The U.S. destroyed Tokyo 73 years ago in the deadliest air raid in history. Right, they will shoot our children and use the old standby, I was in fear for my life. Right, they already slamming the kids, around and, all kinds of crazy stuff. And we talked about this before. Instead of the school to prison pipeline, was it you, Brother Yapo, who had some clever, it's the prison to they gonna have armed guards with the kids just from birth to, just like back in the days when a lot of us were on, prison plantations, at work camps, that they call plantations. So 300 super fortresses B-29 dropped several types of incendiaries, killing an estimated 88,000 to 200,000 people in Tokyo 73 years ago. It wasn't me, but I wished I said it. Well, I didn't say anything clever, but it was clever whoever said it. So anyway, that happened, 200,000 people, 88,000 people died 73 years ago. So, peace to them. In families and communities. It's amazing to me how such large amount, I guess there's so many people in the world, 88,000 people seems like a lot of people to be killed, and the world still continues, but, anyway. Student showing off gun when Courtin Arrington was shot at Alabama school. That was the little girl, the 17-year-old girl who was shot yesterday or the day before in school. And I'm thinking I still haven't seen any imagery of the child who shot her, the boy who shot her, the young man, whatever, who shot her. It was a student, I believe, but I haven't seen any imagery, so I'm assuming it's a white boy, white person. Do you know the ages? The girl, Courtin Arrington, was 17. She was a senior in high school, and I think that he is a junior. So she was shot and killed. Someone was shot, I think, in the leg or the foot, another student, and then I think a teacher was shot, or an administrator, an adult there was shot as well. And, again, I had mentioned yesterday that was a school that had metal detectors, but they say the metal detectors weren't working. So you come from home. Did you already know that the metal detectors weren't going to be working and that would be a good day to bring? I mean, like, how does that work? Or did you just happen to have, like, I don't know. Like, like, the whole story seems weird to me. Alfre Woodard, Aldous Hodge, Richard Schiff to star in indie drama Clemency from Chinoye Chukwu. And y'all know Aldous Hodge used to be in Underground, which was one of my favorite shows. And Alfre Woodard, I love Alfre Woodard. Hey, did you all hear the rumor that's going around that the guy from Queen Sugar, who was in, I didn't see the movie Girls Trip, but he was in the movie Girls Trip, Sarobi, is dating Ducky. And Ducky is this like Sudanese model who is like, really, really, really highly melanated, blackity, black, black, black. Her sister is a model as well. They grew up in Australia. They're, I think, South Sudanese, but her sister is a big YouTube personality and is married to a white guy, a white Australian guy. This young woman, Ducky, is has been on like America's Next Top Model Australia, but she's like the face of Fenty, like the black girl. But they say that they're dating, and I just think, I'm like, just wow, two dark skinned people dating who are doing well in life. I mean, it's just like, I was just like, wow. The little girl in me was like really, really excited for them and to see them, like, wow. So I don't know Clemency, the indie drama, but anyway, look for that, I guess. Black Panther bounds into China with third biggest MCU opening day ever. So I guess a lot of people were like, oh, it's not going to do well in China. And I was wondering, because remember when Star Wars went to China and they had the poster with the black person on it, but they X'd out the black person when it went to China because they said the Chinese people, or maybe the Chinese people said they didn't want to see the black people on the poster. So I was like, well, how is Black Panther going to do in China? But it seems like, the Chinese people have, loved Black Panther. So yay for Disney. Yay for Disney, or yay for us, or both. I don't know. Nathanen, the 10-year-old makeup artist. I don't know. But a 10-year-old makeup artist. I think it was a cute story when I saw it. 3 dead in India chemical factory fire. So rest in peace for those people who made their transition. And for the whole community, because I imagine a chemical fire would put some stuff in the air that probably isn't, good and wholesome and healthy to breathe. India allows living wills for terminally ill. Actor Joe Min-ki found dead in apparent suicide after harassment accusations. And I think that this was a South Korean performer, actor, or whatever. So, I guess he was accused of, sexual harassment, and they say it's a suicide. Maybe somebody killed him and made it look like a suicide, or maybe he killed himself. Turkey sentences 25 journalists to jail for coup links. So I guess, one way to look at it is that the people who seem to be like I guess in this country, zero would be like, everybody who works for CNN is going to jail because you're trying to, take over, my government, So you have links to the coup that's trying to overthrow the zero administration. So that's how some people would look at that. UN has strong suspicions of Myanmar genocide, calls for international criminal court prosecution. So we've been talking about that, in the UN, has been doing, has been in there saying that they can't, that the scene has been swept. They can't investigate. I'm like, I don't really get the whole UN thing on some level. It's like a crock of BS to me. But, I don't know what we have that's better or what there is that's better. I don't really know. India cricketer Mohammad Shami charged with domestic violence. What's behind alarming case of 125 people testing positive for HIV, syphilis in Milwaukee? I don't know, but that sounds, this is coming off of the Griot. That sounds like, some World Health Organization stuff. Like, what's going on? I don't know. Laverne Cox on Tinder dating journey. I've been kept secret by the men I've dated. Now, Laverne Cox is a trans woman. The thing in Milwaukee is fishy. And I thought all they made was beer. You're right. They make HIV and syphilis over there too. Yeah, it sounds weird. I didn't look at the story, but it's coming off of the griot. So if you hear anything about it. So Laverne Cox is a trans woman. So I guess, I don't know who could keep her secret now, because everybody, I don't know if everybody knows who she is, but she is a public figure. But I think everybody, wants and needs love. So yay for love. African Union leader says Trump doo-doo hole comments don't matter, but we beg to differ. So, the African Union is going on politically with what they do. The griot is like, oh no, those comments make a difference and we think it's important. Judge suggests Trump should mute followers instead of blocking them. Now, he has a Twitter profile, and I guess if you say something, if you follow him and you say something he don't like, he'll block you. I've never really blocked anybody or muted anybody on Twitter, so I don't really understand. But, I think that as your profile rises, you have people who, can say some things that you might not like, so you can stop them from communicating with you. And, like I have somebody on this platform who said on one of my videos, wow, you're an ugly gorilla or something. Now, I haven't blocked anybody yet, and I'm like, I don't know if I should block them or not. I guess I feel like if somebody makes one comment, I almost feel, and then I looked at their profile and they didn't have any followers, didn't have any picture, didn't have any content. So I think some of these people are trolls, and they they just have 1 million non-profiles. So if you give them any energy or vibration that they realize, then they get fed and they grow, and then they really want to, get into this thing with you. So I just ignored it. But, I guess that people have been saying by Trump being, the president of the United States, he's a public forum. His Twitter is a public forum. So you cannot block United States citizens from that public forum. Now, you can mute people. That's what they're suggesting that he do. I don't know how anybody, does he follow any rules? I guess you can suggest things to him all day and all night, but he gonna do what he want to do, right? That's what he seemed to do. He seemed to do what he want to do. So that's what it says. The judge suggests, because they know they can't tell him shite. He gonna do what he want to do. Because he is the rich white man with property and power. Cape Town water crisis. City not likely to turn taps off. It's not murder if they're black. Sex offender posts deadly threats against Howard University students. California 14-year-old boy accused of posing as sheriff's deputy. Remember that young guy who had posed as the young black guy who was was he a doctor, a therapist? I think he remember he was treating patients. I think he was a doctor, but he hadn't been, he was he's Doogie Howser MD, but he was a young black guy. But I guess this boy is I'm, a deputy sheriff, but he's only 14. Reward for missing CDC worker rises to $15,000. Relatives struggling to adjust. This is the first time I've heard the amount of the reward. I don't know. When people go missing, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've watched those Law and Order type TV shows or 48-hour shows. So I'm I can't even imagine. I guess in my head, I'm he's missing. Oh, well, it's a wrap. But the little girl we saw on, the young woman we saw on Iyanla Fix My Life, she was missing for 18 years, 16 years, and then she showed up. So, I guess, 5,000, 15,000, 2,000, 20,000, you never know what's going to help to reconnect you with someone, and you never know what someone is experiencing and what might, cut them off from experiencing that. I wonder if, when, black folks when African folks started disappearing from our communities, breaking news, 5 hostages being held in veterans' home just popped up on TV. I think at the top of the hour, I talked about that. They said it was an active shooter situation, but I don't know. But they did say it was a veteran, but I hadn't heard anything about it. But I wonder if there were rewards, in what, I don't want to say Ghana, but in Yoruba land, if the people were my cousin is missing, my son is missing, my brother is missing, I'll give you something if you help me find them. Have you heard anything of him. Here's some, here's something. If you hear anything, let them know. We got goats for him. We got money for him. Like, how did it work? As we started, disappearing, and were we like disappearing, like a person here, a person there, or was it like, I wonder what that experience was like, on the other side of the ocean. Women's March organizer forced to defend herself amid backlash over her attendance at Farrakhan's speech. I listened to a talk today, I think it's African Esquire on YouTube, and she was talking about kind of like anti-Semitism. I was listening, multitasking, but anti-Semitism versus anti-Zionism. And this idea that if you say anything about, there were two concepts that she had that I thought were really interesting. One thing that she said is that, like, if, as Black folks, if we say, hey, we're doing well and we own this property or that property, nobody is like, you're being anti-Black. But if you say, Jewish people are very prominent in the film business, then people are like, you're being anti-Semitic. So that was kind of interesting, because it's like, I think she might be onto something there. Like, I have to think about it because I don't pay, that much attention. Very intelligent woman, African Esquire. So that was one of the points that I heard when I was doing whatever I was doing. And then the other point was that if you say something against Zionism, then people say that you're saying something against Jewish folks, and that they're two different things. And I kind of feel like it seems like they're very, very powerful. I was thinking Jewish people, but perhaps it's like the Zionists, because I'm like, aren't they like over in, the Middle East, like dogging out, Muslim and non-Jewish people in that region of the world that they like came into and just like took over? And I guess that's like what colonizers and invaders do. And then she was also talking about the Jewish, we are the Shemites. So that's the first problem. Right. The first thing she was talking about was the Ashkenazi Jews or something, are the European branch that we think of as the Jews. But that's, so it was just kind of like, but I tell you this, it seems like just like with Jeremiah Wright, and like, it's like you get associated, or, you say, like, it seems like their lobby and their power and their, their attack is strong, I remember when, as a first year student, Professor Griff was supposed to come to my university to speak, and it became this whole, it's very nuanced. Well, Professor Griff was supposed to speak in there were a lot of Jewish students, and even, in New York, some people say Jew York and the Jew York Times. But anyway, there was it became this whole big thing on campus and in the city and throughout the country that Professor Griff was coming to school, and that the Black students should not be using, student government money to pay for Professor Griff to come to the school. And the Black students, all ended up rallying together like, we're going to use this money for what we want to use it for. And when Professor Griff came, I was kind of like, But Sister Soldier, I was like, oh my gosh, that sister is sharp. I thought she was really interesting. But Professor Griff, I was kind of like, But, it was like a big battle and a big deal. And like, it was something. Coming from, in New York and in Columbia, it was very like, there was a lot of Jewish people on that campus, obviously Jewish and not so obviously Jewish. And in that whole city, it was like a whole different culture from what I was, accustomed to. I lost my place. But my first thing, California officials. Did you say, was your story in California? Report hostages taken in active shooter situation in veterans home. Yapo, were you talking about California with the 5 people you said? So this young woman who is, or I think she's a relatively young woman who's been involved with the Women's March or something like that, is like, under attack over, her association. I'll have to check it out. Breaking news, 5 hostages, veterans home just popped up on TV. Oh, you didn't say California. Okay. But it's probably the same. I hope it's the same. I don't know. Okay. 5 ways to honor Black women on International Women's Day. I think they said give us money. It was like, listen. But, you know, you can take that on forward. You don't have to just do it one day of the year, 365 days a year, and use it for all people, more or less. Study finds fake news spreads faster and further on Twitter than the truth. Yes, Callie. Okay. Shocking. UK student films racist chanting outside her dorm room. I think this is like, I think I saw this story a couple of days ago, but, you know, SSDD, same stuff, different day, you know, same stuff, different country, you know, they stay hating and mad and crazy and aggressive and hostile. And China, the US, and Norway are among the leading adopters of electric vehicles. Gravitas Ventures acquires Half the Picture doc about gender equality hiring in Hollywood. Mystery Powerball winner claims prize amid anonymity battle. So this person won a bunch of money. In some states, you don't have to disclose who you are when you win the lottery. In some states, you are required to disclose. This person signed the back of the lottery ticket because that's what the people told them to do on the internet, I think. And then she realized that, they realized that they did not have, the person realized that they didn't have to, and that they could establish a trust to pick up the money without people knowing who they were. Because, you know, they don't want to be bothered. I always wonder about people who play the lottery, you know, because it seems like it's like going to the casino. Like, to me, it seems like the hustle is like you're not, now some people have won the lottery repeatedly, you know, so maybe, you know, like I always had this feeling one day I'm going to win the lottery, except for I don't play the lottery. So I was like, well, the day that I win the lottery, I guess God or something is going to tell me to play because I don't really play the lottery. But some people have won 1, 2, 3 times or maybe more. But in general, like the way that it's like the system is not designed to give away money. The system is designed to make money. So, you know, I don't know. But anyway, this Powerball person, you know, they claim the prize and they're still anonymous, but they may have to, you know, come forth. They don't know. I think that winner is my long lost cousin. Once removed, I'll have to reach out to good old, as soon as they reveal their name, I'm going to know. I have a feeling though, that that's your cousin. See, just like I feel like I'm going to win the lottery. That's your cousin. Black surgeon saves lives, lives in New Orleans and Nigeria, often for free. So it seems like he lives and works for the most part in Nigeria. He lives and works for the most part in NOLA, in New Orleans, and then he goes once a month to Nigeria to provide medical care. And I like that. I like this idea of, you know, a consciousness of, you know, a connection between, you know, the people you're serving in New Orleans and the people you're serving in Nigeria, and using your resources that you're acquiring here in the belly of the beast to serve, you know, a broader community. I like that. You know, I like that. Shashir Zamata, Tone Bell, and DeWanda Wise to star in Stella Meggy's next film, The Weeknd. Now, we know DeWanda Wise. We've seen her all over the place since Underground. But, you know, I love her from Underground. But that child, she's been on Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It. She was the star of that. She was on this other show where she played a mother on, like, it was like a limited edition series. And she played the mother of a child who had been shot by cops. But she's really talented, and it seems like she can play like 16 to 45 convincingly. And, you know, I thought she was okay on Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It Netflix series, but, you know, she seems to stay working. And her husband was Kato. If you ever watched Underground, that's her husband. Court rules parents. Oh, so they're doing a film called The Weeknd. Court rules parents do not need to lie about Easter Bunny. So I think somebody had somebody's children as like foster children and told them that the Easter Bunny didn't exist, and then they ended up getting in trouble. And so it went to court, and I guess the court is like, you don't have to lie and tell your children, you know, tell children that the Easter Bunny exists. I think that's what the story was. Bipartisan group introduces bill to temporarily strip guns from individuals deemed threatening. It's a good thing I don't have a gun because they might strip my gun thinking that I'm a threat. I'm just saying, you know. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke's office spent $139,000 for construction on an office door. Cold black people, right? It's going to start off with, you know, deemed threatening. Threatening is definitely black folks. I don't even know if that's code to them, but anyway, yeah. So $139,000 for a door, and you know, I've been around carpenters. You know, my grandfather was a carpenter, my husband is a carpenter, and you know, I've seen some pricing. You know, and $139,000 for a door. I mean, what kind of door was it? The door to walk out to go to the bank with free money? Because that's I think that's theft and lying and some BS. Karen was a carpenter. Who was Karen? Contestants, this is report. Trump rejected Miss Universe contestants for being too ethnic, too dark skin. Costco is selling $6,000, oh my gosh, $6,000 doomsday prepper food kits that can feed a family of 4 for a year. Karen Carpenter, before your time, I guess. I've heard of Karen Carpenter. I don't know who she is. Musician. So $6,000, that's not that much for a family of 4 for a year. If it was a doomsday scenario, I guess. If you had $6,000 to have sitting around. Now, the thing about, I'm finished. Now, the thing about my emergency things, you know, if you've read, the thing about my emergency, if you read Octavia Butler's The Parable of the Sower or Parable of the Talents, whichever one comes first, you know, she had like a doomsday thing bag, you know, like a grab and go bag. But, you know, the thing you have to remember, or I have to remember whenever I try to put them together, is like to circulate them, you know, like so that the stuff that you have in it is like, you know, the freshest and the newest, and that, you know, because I had started putting some water aside, and then, you know, it was like one time I looked at it and some of it had started molding and stuff like that. It wasn't good. So for those of you who are doing it, you probably already know you have to circulate, you know, like try to keep your, you know, rotate in new stuff periodically and take out the older stuff and eat it and, you know, keep it going. But, yep, that's what I got. That's this edition of Notes on the News. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Today is Friday, so I think that Married to Medicine comes on. Is it the finale? Is it a reunion? I can't even remember. I did a hashtag BeFabulousYou edition today talking about understanding. Check out my blog, BeFabulousYou on WordPress. I'll throw the link up in the other video that I did earlier. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Today is the best day ever. You are the greatest. Mas. Oh, wait. Doaya. Descendants of, dang, I thought it was so pretty when I heard it, but descendants of enslaved, descendants of enslaved Africans in America. Doaya. Do something. But anyway, I thought it was so clever. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Peace.